How's it, Bills fans? Lance Nelson here, president of Built in Buffalo. Welcome in to the Triple Coverage Podcast, brought to you by the Big Tree Inn, Wingnuts Buffalo, 7-1 Slicks Barbershop, and Lancaster Indoor Bounce House. To my left is Scott Casson. To my right is Benjamin Shoup. Not a ton of news in this past week since our last show, but we'll get into a little bit of the offseason meeting talks. Start a bigger dive into the NFL draft here in the 2026 draft season, and a world famous Around the League segment from our guy Benjamin Shoup as well. Sup, Shoup?
Nothing much. Yeah, great, exciting day for Buffalo sports fans with the Sabres playing right now on the power play, and hopefully they can officially clinch and break the drought. But we'll see if they can. And then, not too much with the Bills, but we're getting closer and closer to draft week. So, exciting stuff.
Yeah, I'm not a Sabres fan. I'm a Devils fan. They're not having a season, but it has been fun to hear Sabres fans talk about the new playoff system that's been around for like 8 years now. So it's been fun to see them learn that. And I also want to thank all of our viewers for the thoughts and prayers for Ben's back. He's healed and he's back and here with us. So small miracles really do happen every day if you just ask.
Love it. And we will never not harass Ben on the show until he yells at us and just signs off. But
it's what brings it's what brings the money to us, right? The sponsors. It's because they just love hearing you guys
rib on you. It's amazing. Well, the NFL meetings didn't give us a ton, but it gave us a few little snippets here. In Brandon Beane's interview, he talked about some load management with Dalton Kincaid and picking up the fifth-year option. So, Scott, talk about your feelings on the fifth-year option being picked up, which I think we can all kind of agree was pretty easy decision. And then this load management and something to be said around not getting surgery and continuing to kind of limber through this PCL situation.
Yeah, so picking up his fifth-year option at $8.1 million, no brainer. A spot where him missing some games may have actually helped them. $8.1 million when he's healthy and on the field is an absolute steal for a player of his caliber. So no question picking that up. Yeah, he mentioned load management and being careful with his knee going forward. He has that PCL injury from 2 years ago and elected not to have surgery, which PCLs aren't generally. I'm not a doctor. I've had enough surgeries on my knee to know kind of what's going on down there. Right? I do have my PCLs and a surgically constructed ACL that used to be my patella tendon, fun fact. But PCL surgeries, like, they don't usually operate on them because operating on them is almost like more risky than just letting it heal. PCLs heal on their own. They have really good blood flow. They generally don't need surgery. It does rehab it. And the surgery recovery is usually worse than if you just let it happen. So people are saying, like, why didn't he get surgery on his knee? Like, that would have made things better. Honestly, it wouldn't have. It may have made things worse. It's just something that he's going to deal with. Like, he's had a knee injury and he tweaked it again last year. And hopefully he doesn't have to miss too many games. But you don't love hearing that about him because there's no question when he's on the field, the Bills offense just goes to another level. So you hope that this is just kind of concern and not something you have to worry about. But yeah, no brainer to pick up that $8.1 million. And, this knee thing, unfortunately, may be something that he deals with for a while and kind of like a future us problem that probably after this season, they'll have to see, like, hey, do we want to extend him? How's that knee looking? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm also not a doctor, but don't love having to load manage our tight end who should be young and spry. But Ben, tell me everything that you feel and think about this topic, please.
I'm wondering what load management means to them when he's already playing, 40% of the snaps, right? Like around 40%. Like, what then is he going to be at 20%? Like, that's kind of, I guess, what I'm wondering most is what is then load management to them if they haven't already been doing that.
hopefully practice.
Yeah. Probably probably practices, but yeah. Either way, it's not fun to hear about. The surgery part, from what it seems like it doesn't make really. It does seem like it might be the worst option to actually do the surgery, as you mentioned, Scott, like
For
riskier.
Scott Casson.
Yeah, so that I don't really have an issue with, but yeah, it's not obviously great news to hear that they're gonna have to load manage him, but if it keeps him on the field in important drives late in the season, then I'm all for it.
Amazing analysis. There was also talks about bringing back Brandon Cooks. Ben, how do you feel about the likelihood or possibility of Cooks coming back to Buffalo? And do you think it'd be sort of a redemption season for him if he comes back to Buffalo? Or are you saying, nah, dog, you screwed it up, stay the heck out away?
No, I mean, I'd gladly have him back. I do want them to still add one or two more pieces to that wide receiver room, whether it's adding Cooks in a late round pick, 2 late round picks, a first, like whatever they do, I want them to add somebody. So, or two, at least 1 or 2 people. And Cooks is a guy that, obviously has been in the league for a while. Good veteran to have in that wide receiver room, maybe help Keon out a little bit, if they draft somebody, help that guy out a little bit too, if he's in there. So, yeah, I have no problem bringing back Cooks, and I'd gladly welcome him back.
Scott Casson, tell me.
Yeah, same. You would imagine it would be inexpensive, probably right around the minimum. He did some good things when he was here, and he said he was in touch with his agent. So you would imagine that means there's some mutual interest there. That Cooks probably wants to come back to Buffalo. He wasn't in Buffalo for very long, but it definitely seemed like he made an impact in that locker room when he was here. You saw how emotional he got after the playoff game in Denver. In Jacksonville, when Cole Bishop picked off that ball to end that game, he was the first guy to go up to Josh Allen, give him a hug, looked pumped up. Like he's a vet. He's been around a long time. He very easily could have just kind of gone through the motions, played hard, and he was on the field. But look, I'm here for 5 games. He could have Darius Slayed it.
Yeah, it could have not even come like Slay. Soft
right,
Slay.
But he bought in all the way. He seemed to be a great guy in the locker room. He's a vet presence that would help with the young receivers that they have and maybe adding to this roster, which we'll talk about later. So, yeah, I would absolutely love to have him back. Just last year, he was kind of playing that X receiver role. Maybe he's wide receiver 4 or 5 this time. But, yeah, would love him back.
Yeah, I can't imagine he's not chomping at the bit to come back to Buffalo and sort of, what happened, and it's not all his fault that the Bills didn't get it done in Denver by any means, but he was part of one of the bigger plays of that game, maybe the biggest moment of the game, and he's got to want some, I'm thinking revenge, retribution, but he wants
to. It's not his fault that the Bills lost the game, but it is his fault that they didn't win the game.
There was a play he was involved in that definitely hurt the Bills' chances to win that game tremendously, and they did end up losing as a result of the play. So I think he's got to want to get back, and I don't know if he wants to make up for it, if he wants any sort of retribution or revenge. The right term's not coming to me right now, but that sort of thing, he's going to want to come back and see if he can, push this team over the top in this season. I got to imagine it's a lot of fun playing with Josh Allen as well. So everyone who has played with him is going to want to come back and play with him again. I would believe. So yeah, I all in on bringing him back. Would love it, and I think he would be all for it. Oh, Logan Stanley's about to mess this dude up.
He was just kind of throwing him around, and Kachuk is trying his best to get
it's Brady.
So sorry for anybody that's not just for the side motion, but I just saw that out of the corner of my eye. Stanley's just whipping Kachuk back and forth, and Kachuk's trying his absolute hardest to put his head up, and it didn't work out too well for him. But
all right, sorry about that. But yeah, Brandon Cooks, come on back to the Bills, and yeah, if you're not following the Sabres game live, we're sorry for the spoiler, but go check out Logan Stanley whooping Kachuk here.
Just rushed him. They just showed the replay, and Chuck just looks at him and just drops the gloves and starts going at him.
Amazing. All right. Brandon Bean's last comment that we have highlighted here is that a wide receiver would still be an option in the first round. We missed our chance at a big debate last week due to Ben's back, but everyone knows that I'm all in if the Bills want to take a wide receiver round one, and without going into the whole argument, I guess the show could go an hour and a half to 2 hours if we did that. Any thoughts, I guess, on Bean saying that the wide receiver still is an option in the first, even though their second round pick was spent on DJ Moore? Scott?
Yeah, it's nice to hear that's still an option for the people that are team wide receiver in the first round. We'll go into more detail later, but I thought it was interesting that, with some of the things that Bean has done in the past about receiver and some of the comments that he's made, trading high draft value for DJ Moore, and now maybe using the first round pick on one as well. So basically using your first 2 picks on wide receivers, just a little change of tune from what we've heard in the past.
Yeah. I mean, if they end up doing it or not, it's obviously, I think, look, it's definitely a risk if you're going to go another wide receiver, because then you're saying defense we don't think has as many holes as maybe the consensus around Bills Mafia thinks. But yeah, I mean, you have to at least keep them on the table. You can't just say, oh, we're not going to take a receiver anymore. Like if the Bills are in a weird spot where there could be like 3 or 4 guys there that are really interesting players that a lot of people would like, there could be none there. So it's going to be a weird spot. Who knows who falls? And, if there's nobody else there and they can't find a trade partner and there's a receiver that they like, that might be they might say, hey, this is the best option for right now. We don't like anybody else at this spot. We can't move down. So, it's always good to keep it open, but I still would be very shocked if they end up going receiver. I don't think Bean saying this changes the odds on them taking a receiver in round one. But, it's basically saying that we're going all in on the offense, and we're not going to come up short if we have the opportunity to on offense anymore.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to fill all the holes through the draft. So the fact that they have other holes on defense, they may, but the draft's not the place to fill all your holes. It's a place to try to get young prospects in to better your team, and you're obviously going to try to get positions of need in some regard, but it shouldn't be the main focus. And especially your top pick, needs to be the player that can most help get your franchise to the highest point it can get. And I'm just not sure that the defensive players that are potentially going to be there are going to do that. And maybe the wide receiver position won't either. But I'm not sure that the needs of the football team really should play a huge factor in it. They are part of the equation, but not the driving force. For me, I mean, the Bills typically don't try to draft for need. I mean, they needed a cornerback last year. They did take that round one, but there's not a glaring need. There's not like a nose tackle necessarily that you're going to take round one. That's the biggest glaring need here for this team is the nose tackle in the 3-4. Everything else is you need to build depth at these positions. You could use this, you could use that, but it's not like you can't get those guys potentially throughout the summer or in later rounds of the draft outside of the first. So love that wide receiver is still an option. I think that, we don't want to give Josh Allen the Aaron Rodgers treatment and never draft him receivers in the first round. Try to take as many swings at giving this offense good weapons as you can. AJ Epinesa fails his physical going to the Browns. Do you guys think that he could pass a physical in Buffalo? And what would be the difference in would you want him back? And what would be the difference in passing a physical to come back from Buffalo to Buffalo? Maybe some of the staff still the same that would understand it a little bit more than what the Browns staff does. I'm not really sure how that would work. But if it happens, would you want?
Subjective. It just depends on those doctors. So
right, exactly. There's more familiarity, more history, more data here in Buffalo.
It also depends on the contract. If I'm sorry I cut you off, but
good.
love to have him back on a cheap deal that not much guaranteed at all, where sure, passes physical, because if you cut him, nothing happens. The Browns weren't in that position where if he got hurt, they owed him a lot of money. So yeah, bring him on back, passing the physicals up to whoever the doctor that's doing it. Cheap deal. I think he could play pretty well at that outside linebacker role in the 3-4. So if the Bills want him back, and he's probably going to be cheap now, I'm open for it.
Yeah, if it's, this ends up ruining his market, which you can imagine could end up ruining his market, and gets no money after this, I'm fine with that. I'll never really say absolutely no to a guy if they're dirt cheap. If you can get dirt, it's good to have depth, and if he's a guy that you can sign for cheap for depth, or at least even bring in for training camp, and if he doesn't, you have guys that you like better and you want to cut him, doesn't hurt you really, sure. If you're going to do something even close to what the Browns were going to do, I'm good on that part. But yeah, I don't necessarily want him back, but I'd again be fine. It's kind of like Cooks. I'd be fine with him back. It's he's a good enough player where it's not something I'm going to be up in arms about bringing him back or anything, because I think he'll hurt the team. I think that he can help a team, and if you can get him cheap, why not?
Yep, definitely on board for the low risk deal with incentives. And like Sandra says, good comment here, that if they're going to get him, they'll probably get him after the draft, maybe post June 1st even. Just let him do his thing, and then bring him in later in the summer and see where he's at. And if there's still a need there, maybe there's other options that would be more beneficial to the defense than bringing him along. But we do need 90 to get to training camp. So if he's one of those guys, and it's not a huge guarantee, then go for it.
91, you got that British guy.
Ah, nice.
Well, they really need to bring back those Gabe Davis, so Lance can wear his jersey still. And
you never even wore it last year. You just sent pictures of it.
That's true. We've never seen it worn. We've never seen it in person.
I'm not sure it exists.
We have seen the same picture about 50
I'm pretty sure I wore it to a game, but maybe not. I'll have to see. All right. This is brought to you by the Big Tree Inn. It's wing night down at the Big Tree Inn. So if you haven't had dinner yet, go out and get yourself some Murph sauce or other wing flavors over at the Big Tree Inn. Super good and hot and crispy there. Wingnuts Buffalo, thank you to them for always having us along with Bills players and other events. We greatly appreciate there. And 716 Barbershop on Broadway in Depew. Go to the Cut app and search 716 and book with Dennis and his staff and get your hair. They do great fades over there. So get your hair faded very well by the folks there. And then Lancaster Indoor Bounce House, good, clean fun for the whole family. Got a little arcade, Safari Arcade there, and great bounce houses with a little snack shack as well. Good for birthday parties. And really, really neat little place here in Lancaster. All right, guys, the draft. Scott, you want to start here with the first topic in the 2026 draft dive on the Triple Coverage podcast?
Yeah. So what do we got? Two weeks till the draft. So this show and then 2 more, and then it's draft night, if my calendar reading skills are correct. So the Bills are picking at 26 in the first round. Ben, do you think they're going to pick at number 26?
If I had to put money on it, I would say no. I think that it'll end up being one of those.
What if you didn't have to put money on it?
What?
What if you didn't have to put money on it?
Well, I mean, if it's like what I want versus what I think they'll do, that's different. So I guess either way, if what I want them to do is keep the pick and stay at 26, but yeah, I think they'll move back just because I think that it will end up being a situation where there's not really anybody there that is very intriguing at 26. And I think they'll look at it as, hey, we can get some draft capital back this year, so we can add more guys in the second and third round. So that we can, bring in as many young guys that we can to see how many, take as many swings as you can, and hopefully, a couple of them hit. So I think they'll end up trading back.
Lance, or trade up.
I'd be shocked about that.
Yeah, I'd also be kind of shocked
Me too.
if they trade up, but I don't know. I guess with the depth of the draft being more, it's a deeper draft, so maybe a certain position number 3 versus versus that same position number 6. Let's say maybe those guys aren't so far apart that you need to reach for a guy at 26, and if you can get more picks and just more guys in, then maybe you can get a wide receiver and a linebacker early on or something like that, and then have more picks in the third and beyond to fill other needs like defensive tackle or other things like that. So I mean, I'm just interested to see what the plan will be, but I wouldn't hate if they took a swing at 26 for a wide receiver, as I've been saying, that would be ideal. Or if they even like a guy so much as to go up and get him. If it's a playmaker on offense and they go up and get him, that's cool. I'm not sure what other position I'd really like to see him move up for, but if it wasn't too many spots and they moved up and maybe got one of the top linebackers, I'm not sure they would need to do that. And maybe they would get to them at 26, but it's an idea I wouldn't necessarily hate. But I think it's 26 or later that they're going to pick.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. Brandon Beane has showed us over the years when they don't have a pick in the second or third round, he tries to get them one, whether that be trading up back into it, which isn't necessarily his favorite, but definitely trading back as they've done in a couple of years. So the Bills have 7 picks in this draft. 5 of them are in day 3. They only have 2 day 1 picks, so it would 2 day 1 and 2 picks. Excuse me. Too many days in this damn draft now. I missed the days when it was first 3 rounds on Saturday. The next 4 rounds on Sunday. They didn't have to make it prime time. You have to stay up till 2 a.m. to watch your team pick. But I digress. But Beane has shown that they like to have a lot of picks, and he's been a little more aggressive this year with going and getting DJ Moore. So maybe that's a sign of things to come with more aggressiveness. But yeah, I agree. I think he'll trade back ever so slightly, try to get another day 2 pick so they can try to get another second round pick. You mentioned, drafting not based on just best available, or excuse me, not just based on need, but best available. But the team, if the draft was right now, which it pretty much is, like there are some holes they have to fill. They need guys to come in and play right away, specifically at nose tackle and linebacker and maybe a couple other positions there. So it would make sense for them to not try to get less picks in this draft because they have spots to fill, especially early on. So mention some of those other areas of need there outside of receiver, because we're going to talk about that later. But Lance, what's a position group or two that you're looking at that you want them to draft early on? Because the team specifically on defense definitely has holes.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at the linebacker position, you got a couple guys that are probably in the first round here in Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese, the guys from Ohio State, may slip to the Bills at 26, and maybe decent picks there for the Bills, whichever they like better. There's also Jacob Rodriguez, who's sort of trending towards going maybe in the second or third round, and it's going to be tough if you don't trade back to get him at the position where it's most valuable. And then a guy like Josiah Trotter could be, squarely at their pick at 91 in the third round, where they could select him if he were still available and not have to move anywhere to get still a really good linebacker. So I'm looking at one of the 2 Ohio State guys early, if that's what they're looking to do, and they think that's the path towards making this the best football team they can. If they really want to prioritize defense, I think getting a guy in the middle at the off-ball linebacker position or Sonny Styles, who can play.
Most drafts have Avery Louise and Sonny Styles going top 10. So if they follow the Bills at 26,
well, I'm just saying, or make a move up. I'm saying if they made a move up for that sort of thing, but they probably couldn't get to where they needed to get to for Styles.
Yeah, so, like Avery Reese is going 2 in the ESPN mock draft that came out today from Mel Kiper Jr. and his pumpkin pies.
There you go. So, it's likely, you're looking at Jacob Rodriguez or Josiah Trotter, right? And as the real possible ones. And Rodriguez is tough where he's sort of looking at might be a reach at 26, but if that's who they think, then those are the sort of guys that you're looking to fill this defense with.
Yeah, I had Rodriguez on my list as well. Sorry, Ben, I'll get you. Just wanted to mention him while he's brought up. Yeah, he was a guy I had them targeted maybe like if they do trade back, and get that second round pick, because he's being mocked kind of anywhere in the second round from what I've seen. So he's a guy that if they do end up with another second round pick, that would be an awesome fit. He seems to do all the right things at Texas Tech. That defense was unreal this season. Kept him in that game with Oregon. They had no business being in the college football playoff. So he would be a guy who I think would fit in well in Buffalo, and he has a great mustache. And, not everybody can do that, myself included. So, Ben, what's a position group you're looking at, or two, and maybe some guys you're looking at as well?
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what they do at nose tackle if they do try to attack that in the draft. It's kind of a weird nose tackle draft. There's really two guys maybe that could jump up early in the draft in like the first, second round, and then a lot of guys in like that third through fifth range. If they do decide to go first round, I'm kind of coming, more around to the idea of going nose tackle first round. And so the one guy I want to talk about is Caden McDonald from the Ohio State University. A lot of people I've seen have compared him to a DJ Reader type of player. And at first, I thought, nose tackle in the first round, like it's kind of an uninspiring move. It's not an exciting, like super exciting pick. It's not an edge rusher. It's not a receiver. It's not even a corner, even though I know a lot of people would not like a corner pick, but it's not really that exciting. So, at first I didn't really love the idea, but now that I'm kind of coming around to like, hey, if you can get just a guy that can be in the middle of that defense, on the middle of that line, just plugging it up for the next 4 or 5 years, like that's a position they've been looking to fill. I'm not nose tackle directly, but defensive tackle has been a position that seems like they have just cycled through guys behind Ed Oliver for years. And you get, another promising young guy last year, but who knows what the plan is for him this year now. Are they going to move him to edge, or are they going to keep him at nose tackle? So I don't think that they don't have a pure nose tackle right now on this team. So I could see them going their first round, and I actually wouldn't mind it. Big boy here at 6'2", 330, 326. He measured in at the combine, but yeah, I'd be excited for him after initially kind of just not thinking the pick would be, anything special. I think it'd be a good one despite it not being a flashy pick.
Yeah, that's where I'm more team trade back, assuming it's not a receiver that they go for, but like one of those nose tackles, one of those linebackers, they're probably going to be able to get if they move back a little bit. The guy from Ohio State you were talking about, McDonald, if he's there, that's kind of right around where they have him going. So if he's there at 26, maybe they just take him. But if he goes earlier than that, like there's some other guys like Peter Woods from Clemson. It's he's not quite a prototypical nose tackle, but he can line up all over.
I think I saw his snap count this past year. He played like about 200 at nose tackle, and then about 400 elsewhere. So
yeah.
He can move all around, which might be something they look at and say that they
right.
Like.
Especially with the other, like Deion Walker is a guy who in this system's probably going to be able to move all around. We know Ed can move a little bit. Greg Rousseau can line up all around, maybe less so in the 3-4. But yeah, maybe that's something they look at. Another nose tackle that I don't want to say if I'm interested in, he's had some off the field issues with Xavier Harris from Ole Miss. He's huge. 6'8", 330. He's that gap filler, plug up a hole kind of guy. So maybe he's a guy they look at later in the draft. But if they don't go nose tackle, there's some talk about edge as well. Cassius Howell out of Texas A&M is the pick I would be interested in if the board falls that way, because D-line, they need a lot of, and they need guys who are going to come in and make an impact early. So any other guys we didn't talk about, or maybe areas of need we didn't talk about?
Not going to say Big Citrus? You're not going to talk about Dominique Orange?
You can talk about whoever you want.
Yeah, I don't know. I love the nickname, and fits what the Bills might need. That's just his projected late second round. It's going to be tough for them to get there unless they do trade back and acquire a late second round pick, or early third round potentially if he slipped there. So wouldn't hate Dominique Orange.
The one guy,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, the one guy I'm kind of intrigued. I've seen him mocked to the Bills, and it's a secondary pick. That's the only one that I kind of would actually be excited to see how they'd use him. Is Toledo safety Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. Kind of a similar player to Iman Wari last year, not the hype or anything, and didn't play at the level that Iman Wari played at, going from Toledo, but he'd be a guy that I wouldn't necessarily.
Ball's great.
What?
Mac, don't hate Maction.
I'm just saying it's we'll get to that conversation actually in a second there too, if that matters to you. I just
lost the guy from Toledo. Now we got to get one back.
That's true. I mean, but he's a guy that safety wise, I know it wouldn't be a popular pick, but I think it would set up your secondary in a very interesting spot to be able to really move around guys like Bishop and Gardner Johnson and Alford. Be able to really just kind of let Jim Leonard, if you want to say it, get in his bag and just start moving guys around. So he's a guy that I don't think many people would be happy with. But if they do decide to go secondary, I could see him being on their radar.
Yeah, based on looking at the board and guys who are there in positions that the Bills really need, trade back seems to make a lot of sense if they're going to go that spot. Like it's not like there's a ton of nose tackles who are going to go in the first round. Like there's two or three that could go in day 1 into 2. But then that's about it. You could probably get those guys early in day 2. Same with linebacker. Like there are some linebackers, like you mentioned, Lance, who are going to go really early. And then there are some linebackers that are going to go maybe earlier in day 2. So yeah, trade back does seem to make a lot of sense, unless that first pick is going to be a receiver, which I know Lance wants because he likes fantasy football so much and doesn't realize there is a defense. So Lance, will the first pick be a receiver? And if so, whom?
Yeah, obviously I've been on the Omar Cooper Jr. train, but I think that he may not even be available unless the Bills were to trade up to try to get him. At this point, the mocks are having him go earlier and earlier. But just watching, and I know it was one game in the national championship game, but it's a big game. Seeing his skills, he hasn't had
big games has Fernando Mendoza at Indiana played well in.
Oh, I can't do it.
Did you not see that Don Orlovsky quote?
No.
It was on McAfee, and he was like, "What in big games? Like, what did Mendoza even do?" And they were like, he was like, Ty Simpson out. It's like Ty Simpson outplayed him. They're like, "Are you talking about the game they won 40-0?" And it was, so that's a meme that's going around. I like Orlovsky, but it was not his finest moment.
Fair. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Just seeing some of the, yards after the catch, the, in space escapability and dynamic play that Omar showed in the national championship game specifically, and obviously wasn't his only moment there. But I just think that that's sort of what they want Shakir to do, and I don't think he's quite as dynamic as Cooper Jr. So I wouldn't mind, like, Shakir can also line up outside at times too. So to get somebody who would play more slot or do more of the quick screen game and allow Shakir to do other things that he's shown he has some ability to do, I don't think that would be the worst thing. I know a lot of people are high on KC Concepcion as well, so wouldn't hate that. And then we're going to talk about him a little bit more in just a little bit as well, but maybe taking a look at a Ted Hurst pick, maybe not at 26 specifically, but maybe at a trade back and getting him. I think Ted Hurst is potentially going to go towards the back end of the first round or early second. So a guy you could trade back a few spots.
That.
Where do you have him going?
Not then. Late day 2, day 3.
All right. Maybe I misread the mock.
But hey, I mean, guys go all over the board all the time. So that could happen.
He's here in this mock that came out. He's at 71, but I
right on.
Yeah, I don't think they'd have to move much if they wanted to get him. Was just my point.
Yeah, that's a misread by me, my fault. So yeah,
71,
if that's
decent move.
That's up. That's where the conversation we had earlier, where the guy, like, if we don't get wide receiver 3, ranked by some people in Omar Cooper, then if wide receiver 4 or 5 is Ted Hurst, then you're, how much are you losing out on the guy? Is there a huge drop off? And I think that picking Omar Cooper or Casey Concepcion in the first would be a big W for this offense. I don't think you can have enough playmakers on a rookie deal, on a cheap controlled deal for the offense.
I don't think they'll go receiver. I just, part of the reason why what you just said, Lance, is they already have at least 3 guys for the next 3 years on a contract that is right now not going anywhere. Like, if you add a 4th, and then
who are the 3 guys?
Moore, Shakir, and Coleman. I guess Coleman you could cut, but his contract is 2 years after? No, 3 years after.
Trade him as well.
2 more years for Coleman, 4 more years for Shakir, 4 more years for Moore.
And
if they have outs after 2. 2 more for Palmer.
But I don't know if that will stay. But like, that's the thing, is then what do you do with Kincaid? If you extend him, that's another guy that's a weapon that you extended, and James Cook's extend. So yeah, it would be nice. It would make that decision easier on like a Coleman if he's not performing, or if he's, let's say, has a decent year this year. It makes it easier to say, okay, let's just stay with the rookie and maybe get something out of Coleman, whatever. It's just, for me, like you also brought up how, wide receiver 3 compared to wide receiver 4. I'm not even sure there's a major difference between like wide receiver 3 and wide receiver like 10. Like, that's the thing, is this draft is that deep at receiver. It's not a top loaded draft. It's kind of spread out throughout the whole draft. Again, I wouldn't be mad at wide receiver first round. It'd be a little bit confusing then, I guess, to see how they handle the rest of the draft and the rest of the offseason. I just think if you're going to put that many assets into it, and that's been a big talking point over the past 2 or 3 years, is asset management. I mean, whether it's D-line or receiver, whatever it is, it has to work then. It has to. It absolutely. This pick, if you pick a receiver, that guy has to be good, because then it's another receiver that you missed. And, you have your 2 most recent drafted receivers are misses. And what are you going to do then at nose tackle, linebacker, depth corner? So for me, I just don't think they will.
You would sign guys.
I mean, I'd still draft them in the later rounds. I'd be fine going round 3. I'd even be fine if they trade back in round 2 and go, like, let's say Omar Cooper Jr. falls to round 2 and they get decided, hey, they trade back to 35, whatever it is, or 40, and they think then, okay, well, let's go back up and get them, or let them fall to us. That'd be something that I could see too, going receiver early second, and then you go nose tackle, linebacker, whatever you do in rounds 3, late round 2, whatever it is. So, yeah, I don't, not completely ruling out. Like I said, I think that if it's the best player there and they can't get a trade that they like, they could say, F it, let's just go all offense, and our offense isn't going to lose. We've seen that strategy before out of other teams. It's worked, it's not worked. So, I wouldn't be shocked, I guess, if they did that. But I just think all signs point to they're going to try to go defense in round 1, or that their first pick, just because they're not really going after too many guys on that side in positions of need.
Yeah.
I do not want them to draft a receiver in the first round, unless a guy who's like a slam dunk absolutely falls, or I just think there's too many holes on the defensive side of the ball right now. And I also am fan of trading back and getting some more picks in day 2 to get maybe 3 starters on the defense at linebacker and nose tackle and who knows where else. I like Omar Cooper Jr. I like Casey Concepcion. But they're not like slam dunk home run targets at that spot. Like what Ben hit it spot on. Like the draft at receiver isn't super strong at the top, but there's like a lot of guys you'd be happy with. I 100% want them to draft a receiver at some point in the draft and not in the 7th round like last year.
Right. That's the biggest thing. I think it's like they missed out on guys. Like you go through the wide receiver profiles, like, oh man, could have got this guy, could have got that guy, and like who knows? But you talk about guys like Troy Franklin, and I know he's not like a superstar or nothing, but he's doing some things in Denver and different stuff. So it's like for me, it's more of like get a swing in there before the 7th round, like you just mentioned. And we also have like I'm not sure where this like big need at like edge in this defense, like you talking like the outside linebacker.
I think that's what they would
like
be.
The other defensive end positions are pretty stacked with dudes that we've drafted over the last 3 years.
Yeah, it would be the outside linebacker spot. Because I know we have Groot and Chubb.
Chubb and Hoyt.
Yeah, well, and Hoyt's a lineup anywhere guy and coming off an Achilles. So,
and the other guys that they drafted, like Solomon, is he a fit in this defense?
I don't want Solomon on the team.
Yeah, like is Landon Jackson a guy like that's going to
be work? Maybe.
I mean, actually, it might benefit him a little bit to go into this, but like, there's guys that will benefit, guys that won't benefit from this scheme.
TJ Sanders, I don't necessarily know where they're going to put him.
Yeah, and he was a guy I was excited for last year, but now it's where does he fit here? Because he's not really going to be like, he's not an edge to me, and he's not a nose tackle. So like, where do you fit him in? I wouldn't be shocked if they do try to trade somebody like a Dwayne Carter or a TJ Sanders or whatever for a late round pick just to get something back if they feel like they can. Like I really wouldn't, just because if they decide to go, let's say a Cassius Howell in round 1, or they just decide to go somebody round 3 or trade back round 2, whatever it is, that's then, like you said, Lance, there's a lot of guys there in that room, but how many of them right now would you feel confident on the football field with? 3, 4, maybe? Like it is those guys you just named pretty much. And if one of them goes down, it'd be nice to have somebody there. But yeah, I think edge. I do agree though, Lance. I do think edge first round is also a position that wouldn't make a ton of sense to me. I think if you go a position of need on defense round 1 or early round 2, it's got to be either nose tackle, linebacker, or corner. I actually would say corner would be over edge for me in terms of a need for this team, because you still don't know really what Hairston is. Benford's there. Who else do you have behind him? And Hairston already dealt with injuries last year. Benford's dealt with injuries. So I actually would even put corner over edge for me.
I mean, you just signed an edge in Chubb, and I know like he's older, and you can't just rely. There may be injuries, so you got to have stuff behind him. Definitely need depth there, but I don't know if that's in the first round.
That's another one where it's like it's asset management. How is that a good use in this first round? Unless somebody falls to you that you didn't think was possible. Like, is it good asset management to go get another edge? At least in round 1, I don't necessarily think it is.
Yeah, no, I said this on the last show and maybe even a show before, and I'm going to say it again, but what's different about this year's Bills draft is the head coach of the team. It's no longer a defensive-minded guy. It's an offensive-minded guy. So I still don't think they're going to draft a receiver, but if you have the head coach of your team pounding the table for somebody, and he's in the room now, and maybe, hey, all right, man, like it's your team. We're going to give you what you want. Like maybe that's the path that gets them there. But I just think there's too many spots on defense that need a look before they can take a receiver. Lance, I'll let you run with this next one because it's your question, and it's prospect age. And is that a factor for you? And I just watched that new Netflix dating show, Age of Attraction, which supposed to be like ageless dating. So I do feel like I'm ready to talk about people's age.
Amazing. Yeah, no, I mean, when you guys this is just a fun conversation I thought that we could have on a couple of different ways you look at prospects. And, when you're looking at who you'd like the Bills to draft, does it does it really factor in for you at all the age, whether it's a Terrell Edmonds type, like you can get as many of his developmental years here in the NFL, or you can get an older guy now with the COVID rules and everything. You've got a lot of guys coming out that have been in college for some time, and specifically a guy like Akeem Mesidor, who is an edge, who is like 25 years old, about to turn 26 soon. Like, is
24.
that a guy? 24, about to turn 25. Sorry, I know math. So is that a guy you want to you'd want to bring in, or is that somebody you would sort of avoid?
I don't think it's a complete, like, I'm not going to look at this prospect because of this. But if it is between him and somebody else, and that somebody else is a bit younger and all things else are equal, then maybe it becomes a factor, because when guys are this age, like, they're about as developed as they're going to be. Like, you know what you're going to get. That's why way more in basketball than in the NFL, but in the NBA draft, like, the 18-year-old, 19-year-old is always going to get drafted ahead of the 4-year senior, the Alex Caravan, for this upcoming draft. Even if he may be a better player right now and will make more of an immediate impact, like, his ceiling isn't he's not anywhere close to his ceiling yet. So, while I wouldn't not look at somebody because of their age, but if there was this two players side by side and all things are more or less equal, and there's a 21-year-old and a 24-year-old, I would take the 21-year-old.
Yeah, I think it depends also what type of team, where you are at with your team right now. Like the Bills, if it was 2017, I probably wouldn't want to draft a 24, 25-year-old if they're rebuilding. If now, like, they're in win now mode, if the guy's 24 but he can help your team, or 25 that can help your team, you still draft him. Now if he's like obviously a Brandon Weeden out there and at 29 years old entering the NFL, or was he 29?
He was 27.
27. Yeah, if he's now pushing 30, that's a different story. I would probably stay away from that. And then it's also even like positions, like running back. Do you want to draft an older running back? There's pros and cons to that. If he doesn't have a lot of miles on him from college and he's 24, that's a pretty good thing, because by the time his contract's up, he's 28, 29, and that's the age that you're probably not going to pay him, going to want to move on anyways. Where if you draft a running back at 20, 21, his contract's going to be up at 24, 25. He's going to want to get paid. So it just depends, I think, on position, to what your team's doing right now. It depends on a lot of things. It definitely can play a factor, but either way, I will say I don't think it will be a major factor at any point for a team. Like, it might be a certain factor depending on two different players if you're looking at them, but you're not going to rule a guy completely out because he's 24 or 25. If they're good enough, if you're good enough, you're going to get drafted as high as you can be. So
yeah, I mean, I think for this, like you said, if this team needs a guy that's more mature and he can come in and help right away, that'd be ideal, especially, if it's a non-first round pick and you're getting a guy that can kind of step in and his maturity helps, him contribute sooner. That's great. And then the second thing with prospects and how you look at them is the level of competition they played at. So you got guys, we mentioned Ted Hurst playing at Georgia State, and then there's other guys in this draft, and let Scott take his guy. But does the level of competition play a huge role? Or, I mean, I guess you're going to knock off a round or two probably on him, where he, if he produced the same at an SEC school as they did at their, lower level school, you may be a first round pick, no doubter. But given the production was at the lower echelon in college, how much does that factor into, how much you like a guy?
It's tough, because I think, I mean, it definitely affects a little bit. It can take a little bit off your game if you're not playing in the Power 4 conferences, or if you're playing at, no offense again, Scott, to Toledo, to another MAC school. I know we don't, we love some good MACtion, but at the end of the day,
I don't MAC shame here.
There's a reason that people get excited about MACtion, and it's not because it's good football.
Awesome football.
Because it's awesome football. Yeah, it's not good, but it's awesome.
What do you mean? Where else are you going to find people leaving at halftime to go drink more beer and then come back into the stadium and the punter throwing it over his head to the kicker and it gets returned the other way, or a team not scoring for an entire game when you have them to score over 2.5 points in the game, and then they recover a fumble and return it for a touchdown, and they review it, and it's very clearly a good fumble and a touchdown, and you come back and the ref blew his whistle for no reason, so there's no touchdown, and then they don't score and you lose your bet. Where else are you going to find that? On a Tuesday and some goddamn action.
Well, I'm just saying, it is definitely, but worse. You've seen it now.
Sabres just scored to open the game, so just a little live feedback there.
This was a big conversation when Trey Lance was getting drafted. He didn't play at the highest level.
He didn't play anybody. It was COVID. He played 12 games.
But you know what I'm saying is he didn't play at a high level school, and that's a conversation. So it definitely can affect you. But there's plenty of guys from most smaller schools that I've ended up loving. I mean, even
Jerry Rice.
Yeah, I mean, you ever hear one of the best? I got him right now on the back of my phone there. A little Khalil Mack went to UB. There's a little MACtion for you, Scott. So yeah, you can get great players. It's just it's always going to come down to how you look on the film, no matter what. If you look like a player that's going to be able to make an impact at the next level, you either have it or you don't. And it might be a little bit more of a risk, I guess, if you're going for a lower school. But at the same time, I think NFL teams just if you're looking good on film, you're looking good on film, and if you decide to pass on it and it's a great player because you've lower school, that's on you.
For me, less so. If you're playing good football and you have the traits, we can teach you everything else. I played Division III sports. When I was in St. Lawrence, we played against two guys who went on to start in the NFL for a long time. And Andrew Franks, the kicker for the Dolphins, and Ali Marpet, second-round pick of the Bucs. And he started for them in the Super Bowls in the NFL for a long time. NFL guys can come from all over. So I would look at them more under more of a microscope than a guy who's playing in the SEC, because he's playing against NFL talent every Saturday. But if there's a guy who has the traits and he's playing well at the FCS level, I don't think that. Then I'm not even talking the MAC, the Sun Belt, other FBS conferences, those, very much less so. I'm talking FCS guys, or D2, D3, or D2, D3 less so, but like Bryce Lance. He's a guy I talked about on the show earlier. He's from North Dakota State, where a lot of NFL guys have come out of. Trey Lance, Carson Wentz, a whole lot of starting linemen in the NFL, and Christian Watson, the number one receiver for the Packers, went to North Dakota State. So a lot of talents come out of that school, and he's fast. I think he was in the low 4.3s for his 40, and he's a guy who you can probably get in the 4th round, probably maybe the 5th, an early day 3 pick. So there's a lot of really good value there, and there's a lot of really good football players at that level. I have a couple buddies who are playing FCS football, and one of them went to Ole Miss first, and he was like, I'm not playing enough, so now I'm going to go to South Dakota, and he's playing. So there's a lot of talent, especially with the transfer portal. A lot of these guys are guys who went to bigger schools and had the high school accolades, but they weren't playing as much as they wanted, and they got a chunk of change to go to an FCS school, and they're there. So especially with the transfer portal and that, I think there's going to be a lot of talent that comes from these schools, because maybe they're a late bloomer. A guy like Wagler, a basketball example, but the guy for Illinois, he was a 3-star recruit, and now he's going to be a top 10 pick in this year's draft, and he led them to the Final Four with him and all of his Balkan friends. So there's talent at all levels. You just got to be good enough to find it.
Right on. Well, now it's time for the most exciting segment of the show, Ben's world famous Around the League segment. Take it away, Benjamin Shoop.
Nothing major around the league this week, but some good little little topics. Not going to go over each one individually. I'm just going to read these ones, and I'm going to read a good list for Lance since he loves that. And he's going to pick which one he just wants to say a little thing about, if there's any of them that catch his eye.
Yeah,
so first one, Buffalo Bills legend Stephon Gilmore has retired from the NFL after 13 seasons, Super Bowl champ, Defensive Player of the Year, multiple-time All-Pro, phenomenal career for him. Obviously was not too liked when he was leaving Buffalo with his old little hate about playing on national television and never being able to get the opportunity to do that in Buffalo. Did not really hit people the best in Buffalo. So, yeah, he retired. Another one, old Buffalo Bill as well, Kaiir Elam is signing with the Kansas City Chiefs. So interesting move there. Obviously has helped the Chiefs before while being on the Bills. So maybe he can help the Bills while being on the Chiefs now. Kirk Cousins signing in Las Vegas. Who knows the plan right now on who's going to start week 1, Cousins or Mendoza. Either way, it's basically a 1-year deal for him in Vegas. Good little mentor there, no matter what they do with Mendoza. Falcons unveil new uniforms. If you want to go check them out, not a huge fan of them. So if you guys have seen them and want to say your opinion, you can. Not a huge fan personally. Puka Nacua, NFL star receiver, obviously for the Rams, enters rehab after a kind of interesting few months for him, with plenty of drama around him. Not going to go through all of it because it is a lot. And then the last but not least, our guy Josh Allen is officially a parent and officially a girl dad, as they announced today that Josh and Haley have had their baby girl. So congrats to them. Lance, anything out of those that really kind of catch your eye, catch your ear?
Congrats. Yeah, obviously congrats to Josh and Haley on welcoming a new member to their family. Always great. But for me, just the thing that hits home is a little bit for Puka Nacua. I hope he obviously gets himself right. I'm 5 years sober, and it's not an easy thing to do, but it's worth it. And I hope that he can do what he needs to do in rehab to get himself to a point where he can function back again and be a great athlete that can be a great role model for young folks.
Maybe he'll get to hang out with Tiger Woods, who will give him, the push to get over the edge and be a champion.
There you go.
If he hangs out with Tiger Woods, he might end up going back to Georgia. If he hangs out long enough with Tiger,
as long as he's not rolling cars, it'll be all right.
Because the Masters is next week.
That's not around the league, man.
You said back to Georgia.
Oh, I was saying Georgia University. Come on, I know you knew that. But,
I know. I was messing with you.
I know.
I'm going to choose to talk about Stephon Gilmore because he was a Bill for a while and he was solid. And then he went to the Patriots and kind of took his game to the next level. Won Defensive Player of the Year. Absolutely got cooked by John Brown on that Saturday night game around Christmas time in 2019 when the Bills went to the playoffs and lost to the Texans. But here's a stat our guy Sneaky Joe tweeted out. Stephon Gilmore is one of 31 players in NFL history to have won DPOY, 2 All-Pros, and 5+ Pro Bowls. Of those 31, all but 2 were in the Hall of Fame that are eligible so far. And that's James Harrison, who probably gets in eventually, and Pat Swilling. So is Stephon Gilmore a Hall of Famer to you guys with those stats? It kind of doesn't feel like he is, but when you look at that, like how could he not be? It's also crazy that he didn't do any of that in his first 5 years in Buffalo. Maybe a couple Pro Bowls, but definitely wasn't all pro, and obviously not the DPOY. So
that's just because people couldn't see him on TV.
Yeah,
that's why once everyone could see him on TV when he went to the Patriots, that was his comment. I don't know if you're familiar with.
Well, to be honest with you, that's not super wrong.
No, at the time it wasn't. No,
it's still not like got people vote for who they watch. These voters, you see some of the Heisman voters. I know this isn't college
football. There you
go. Yeah, there it is. More possibly Hall of Famer.
I think, like you said, it's hard to say. No, I think part of it is like he's never, besides really that one comment about playing on TV, he's not in the news. He's not a huge loudmouth showboater. He goes out, does his job, and that's it. And sometimes that especially at a position like corner where you don't want to hear the name. You don't want to hear the corner's name called a lot. Some people just don't realize then how good somebody is because their name's not being called. I mean, I know people all the time used to talk about even like Darrelle Revis. Darrelle Revis didn't have a lot of interceptions, so he wasn't popular. Like a lot of people did. He had a good amount, but like compared to, he wasn't like known for getting picks. He was known for, your receiver is not going to touch the ball and not even like put the fear of even throwing the ball his way into quarterbacks. So it's not always the best to hear their names a lot. And I think, some people probably just didn't hear Gilmore's name as much because he wasn't getting cooked as much unless it's John Brown.
Or the best spot to be as a corner, the Nnamdi Asomugha spot or the Champ Bailey at the end where people think you're good, so they don't think about throwing to you, and then they don't realize that you're not.
Sauce Gardner?
Well, he's
all right. Just not as good as people think he is.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not a good judge of Hall of Famers. I don't think of Gilmore as that caliber, but with what you just put forth, I guess how could you say no, as you said? But
I know who is a Hall of Famer in your book, Omar Cooper Jr.
The thing about that, Lance didn't even know who Omar from The Wire was. Never heard of Omar Little. Neither of these two. Both of them got to watch The Wire.
Yeah, I got to get on The Wire.
Yeah, what was I even born when it came out? What year did it come out?
It came out in 2002.
Oh yeah, 1 year old.
07. It's not like I was 7 when it came out. I've still seen it.
7?
Yeah.
Hey,
I didn't watch it when it came out. I watched it like last year, and I just rewatched it.
I was a sophomore in high school when it came out, I was a sophomore in high school when it came out. So
I think The
I wasn't allowed to watch it then.
Sopranos.
I don't know.
Lance is still watching, his little cartoons and going on.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Boy Meets World. What are you gonna do? All right, folks. Well, we appreciate you sticking along with us for an hour here. That'll do it for our show. A couple weeks out from the draft now, getting excited. 3 weeks out from the draft, getting to be an exciting moment here as everything rolls up to Pittsburgh in 3 weeks. So until next week, we will bid you adieu and go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.